Yeah. I think the person who was more sensitive to this issue than myself was Phil, and it took a lot of persuading to get him to actually publish in our journal. Again, we are a very small field of academics. I mean, if internationally, I can't hand on heart say how many French film scholars there are, but I doubt if there are more than 2,000. It's very small. And my view has been, because I have published several times, when new research, I've published, I think, 3 or 4, so quite greedy really. But I've placed them there because, well, they have to be refereed, but I've wanted to place them there because they've been in the areas that nobody wants to write about. I mean, I've spent the last 10 years of my life writing books that I've been pleased to write, but might not necessarily have written if other people had written them. And 50th Cinema is a particular case in point. It's a real sore issue for me because it's a wonderful cinema that Kennedy Cinema more or less killed off, and we're trying to rescue it for posterity, because if we don't do it, it might be too late. So what happens is that well, Phil for a long time said, I don't think it's right that we should publish. But then we had we had a problem in the first volume, in that not the first issue, but I think because we were still struggling to get articles, we hadn't yet had our first conference. We were too short. Literally, we had nothing. So I said, I think this is how it started. So I said to Phil, well, I've got this piece that I've just written. What do you think? And he said, oh, I don't think that's very kosher. And I said, well, why don't we send it anonymously to X, Y, and Z, outside of the advisory board and the editorial board, and see what they have to say, and then we'll go from there. So it was sent out, and they said, you know, do this, do that, and we think that's publishable. So it was a relief. And we popped it in to make up the numbers. So the first, you now know a secret. The first one that's in the first volume of mine is a make up the numbers game. But since then, Phil and I have been working in areas that are very exposed. So we do it very rarely, but we do feel justified in submitting a piece, which then goes out to be refereed anonymously, just because it is an area that nobody's writing about, and it is new research that we feel needs to be out there. We don't do it very often, but I think it's okay personally, but you know, maybe other people don't agree.
Yeah, I mean, it was very nice for me that you actually addressed this issue, because I've been thinking about it, because I'm starting the Journal of Craft Research. They are journals of craft history out.
Yeah.
They're not academic craft journals out at the moment. There's no other generic craft history journal out there. So I'm at the core of it, releases.
Yeah.
But I have no, unless I publish my own journal, I have nowhere to publish.
Yes.
It's read by a starter.
Yes.
It's one thing. So I've constantly been thinking, should we be doing this definitely not in the first issue?
Yes, no, I didn't do it in the first issue. I'm glad to. I thought I had actually, and I brought it along.
But the other issue that I have, you said, you know, your paper went out anonymously. Well, my work's still prominent in this. It's such a small community. It's still prominent. It will never go out anonymously. Yeah. So that's an additional complication, because you know, whoever, we have no review. Yeah. I mean, you know, I could give it to my senior advisor and say, can you handle it? But I think there would be a huge problem of actually finding somebody who can review that with the subject knowledge. Yes. And without knowing me.
Do you write the editorial to your journal?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, but I think you can address it in there. I mean, every time I think one year I actually got Phil and myself in the same issue, and I addressed that in the editorial. And I think that's where you do that. You say that you're aware that you know, the things you've just been saying, but that it has been actually refereed.
Yeah.
But not in a defensive way, but just to say, you know, this sort of throws up the problem that there isn't enough there's not a plethora of journals out there for your work to be
I
played.
mean, many others have done it, like,
Yeah.
I know more about design in areas like design studies, which is probably the most recognised design journal, which
Yeah.
is led by Michael Cross, who's
Yeah.
published many times in his own journal.
Yeah. I don't think it's a problem if you're it's not vanity publishing. It's certainly getting the research read by the people that you want to be reading it. I think that if you're well, it's people who are setting up the journals tend to be, and I don't mean this in any snotty way at all, but tend to be later in their career or mid-career and beyond, so they're already quite established, and not necessarily everybody, but mostly, say, quite well established and regarded. Otherwise you wouldn't get the editorial board to agree to work with you, or with one or two, whatever. So I think you have credibility, and to me it's a bit like, if you're a newspaper editor, you do write the editorial. It's a step further to write an in-depth article perhaps for that newspaper, but you do it from time to time to put your voice there, because it'd be, I sort of think of it the other way around. It'd be rather peculiar if two of the major, I mean, I'm not doing this by vanity, but Phil and I are two of the major scholars in French cinema in the UK. We all know who the other ones are within our field, and there are probably about half a dozen of us in the UK. It'd be really weird if two of the most prominent scholars didn't publish in the only journal on French cinema that's in English. It'd be really strange. But we don't do it often, we don't exploit it, obviously. Yes.
I'm fascinated by the debate. It's so English.
Yes.
And I actually was expecting something else in intellect, because a lot of what has been said here is informed by a very positivist model. That there is a right way of doing things. B, that there is a notion of objectivity. And C, that, well, if you add to it also the English kind of self-effacing or vanity, you call it, God forbid. I mean, this is your profession. People would be buying the journal partly because you're there.
Yes.
And they would want to see what you have to say. And this whole game of, we have to pretend that we're not there, we don't do it, we don't know.
It's like our government.
For whose sake?
Yes.
I mean, I hope that intellect is in the forefront of new thinking, of different thinking, and one of the ways is really shedding some of those, and really have a kind of open-minded and professional. Open-minded and professional. There are so many ways one to do it. And this magic number of, I don't know what's 2, 3, 4, you are anonymous, why anonymous, and all these kind of things. There are mantras that have been sanctified by a certain paradigm, which I believe none of us would subscribe to. But I also look at say how successful journals operate elsewhere. And I have two examples in mind which are kind of paradigmatic. I don't know how many of you are social scientists. I'm kind of from the cast. One is Norman Dancing. He is the editor of, I think, half a dozen journals, if not more. He is the sole referee